Here we go. Alexander the Great, Book 10, Section 5. There's just been a large lacuna. So, intuentibus, we can see from the NT, it's the present participle, so it means with those watching or to those watching, plural. Lacrima aborte, so tears had been arising. Praebuerunt, this is a shortened version of praebuerunt, which means they offered. Speciem, the appearance, yam now, not regem, not the king, but a funis eos visentis exercitus. Exercitus is the army. Visentus here is the NT of a present participle, so this is but as an army looking at a funeral, non-regem, not at the king. So this is near his death, I'm guessing. Maero, this is a third declension, means grief, lamenting. Tamen, nevertheless, circumstantium lectum, this is those who were standing around the lectum, the bed, eminabat, which means it was produced, or you might want to say it was eminent, it was really standing out, how much maero there was, how much grief there was for those standing around the bed. Circumstantium, again, has that NT there. Quas, which is those people who were standing around. Ut rex aspexit. He's the king, the rex in the nominative. He looked at those people, and as he was looking at these people, he inquired, he said, In venitus, you shall find, cum ex cessaro, when I have died, dignum talibus virus regem. So this is asked as a question. Will you find a king when I am dead, who is dignum, worthy to such men? So in chapter 4, which broke off in the lacuna, he was chewing his people out and choosing Persians over his own people. But now, we've skipped to where he's dying. Incredibile dictu auditoque. This is the supine form. It's usually pretty rare, but this is incredible dictu in words and in hearing, or it's incredible to say and to hear. But in eodem habitu corporis, he was in the same habitu, the same bearing corporis of his body, in which, in quam, composerated say, this is, he was having the same bearing that he had when he composed himself, cum when ad missurus milites asset, when he was about to, a missurus is a future, meaning he's about to, admit in his soldiers, jurasi, this is an endured basically, donec, until a toto exercitu from the whole army, illud ultimum per salutatus est. So he'd been greeted here, per salutus, this is when they greet people, ultima means the last time. So, all up, this little sentence says, it was incredible to say and to hear that he held himself in the same bearing with his body in which he composed himself when he was about to admit all these soldiers, and he had endured the whole time until the whole army had greeted him for the last time. Dimise qui vulgo. So this is starting off with the ablative absolute. We have the qui, so and having dismissed the common people, the vulgar, velut, as if omnia vitae debito. This is all debits, or everything which he'd owed of his life. He was now liberatus. He was free from all these things he owed to life. Rejecit, so he threw back his fatigato membra. So his tired limbs, basically, he's now, after he's dismissed all these crowd of people, he's free of everything of life, and he chucked his arms back, which were tied, fatigata. Proprius qui, which means it's a comparative use, closer. Adire usus amicus, so having ordered his friends, usus amicus, this is in ablative use, to go proprius closer to him. Nam for, et also, vox voice, deficere iam coeperit. For also now his voice had begun now to be deficient, to be weak. In the detractum annulum digito. And so having taken, this is a past passive from the supine, having taken off the ring, and annulum is a ring on your finger, and the digito is the finger. Having taken off his finger, perdice, this looks dative, he tradited, which means he handed over this annulum, this ring, to Perdiccas, or whatever his name is. What is it in English? It's Perdiccas. Adjectus mandatus, having also added this in the ablative, having added these mandates or instructions. Ut, that. Corpus suum, his body. Ad hamer, if you take the H off it, you get the English version of it, which is amen or something. I think it's in Egypt. And he ubrented. He ordered his corpus, his corpse, to be borne or carried, ferai, to Amon. Querentibusque, and to the people who are querentibusing in the present participle, as you can see from the NT, to those people who are asking, here's to these people, cui to who, relinquit the regnum. So, basically, to these people who are asking to who, cui in singular, he was leaving the regnum, the kingdom, he responded, ei, that to him, ei can be male or female, but it'd be to him, qui who esset optimus, to him who is the best, the optimus, probably the strongest or the best person qualifying, caterum, but pro videre is to see, pro means to see in advance, so he was having some forethought here. Now, say ob id Curtman magnos. So he knew now that because of this, ob means because of this, there would be a magnos Curtman, there would be a great contest. So, in his foreseeing, he wants funebres ludos, funeral games to be prepared sibi for himself. This is part of his providere clause. Rursus, again, the adverb. Perdica interrogante, this is in the ablative present participle, so I'd say perdicas in the ablative as well. So with our perdicus asking, quando, when, celestes honores, habere sibi velit. So when he'd wanted to habere, to have these celestial honours, or these games, I'm guessing, sibi for himself, dative, dixit. Alexander said, in the perfect, then, tum is then, vele. When it was wanted, that's the infinitive of wanted. When ipsi, this is themselves, plural. When they assent, when they were felices, when they were feeling good, or sometimes it means blessed, but so when ipsi, when they thought that it was a good time, felices. Suprema haec vox, so haec is these, fu it was, vox suprema, the last word, and we'll take it as plural, the last words, regis, genitive of the king, and Paulo post, a little after, extinguitor, he was extinguished, he died. And for the daily dictionary, we'll have the felix, the adjective, which becomes felices here, as was used. Happy or lucky, blessed, fortunate, fertile, fruitful, prosperous, auspicious, favourable. So basically said, have these games when they were felix, so when you are feeling lucky or happy or favourable. We also said can be connected to good omens as well. Okay, ac primo. So ac primo is believed, so it'd be at the first thing or in the first place. Ploratu, lamentisque, and planctibus, tota regia personabat. So this verb persona means to sound out. S-O-N is for sounding, per just means thoroughly. So that means in the filled with sound was the total regia, that the whole palace here is referred to as this. And the ploratu is weeping, crying sort of things, wailing, lamentations, and planctibus. This is when you beat yourself. Usually I think they beat themselves in the chest or above the heart. Mox, soon, velut, as if, in vastus solitudine. This is just in with the ablative. Solitude means a desert, so it was in a devastated wasteland or in a vast desert. Omnia tristae silentio. Tristae is sad or grim. So everything becomes muta, silence. As torpor banding and becoming, as you know what torping, I think we have torp in English actually, so everything became torpid is the word, and mute and grim in silence. Ad cogitationes, two cogitations, which means thinking of what, day in, day then, futurum esset, would be happening in the future. The cogitation's about the future, and the dolore converso, this ends up with an ablative absolute again, with the grief, the dolor had been converted to these cogitations. Nobiles pueri. This is the noble boys, or boys of the noble people, taking the nominative here. Custodia corpus eos. Eos here just means ears. Ad sute. So the noble boys who are accustomed, ad sute, the I again gives you a clue, it's plural, who were accustomed to be his custodians of his body, his bodyguards. Neither doloris magnitudinem capere, neither could they take the magnitude of their grief, or neither were they able to hold in this magnitude or of their grief, and nor say themselves ipsos inside the vestibulum regie tenere poterunt. So neither were they able to, ables potero, tenere, to hold themselves, intro means inside, the vestibulum of the palace, the royal quarters here. So the noble boys who were accustomed to be his bodyguards, they had a great amount of pain basically, and they were barely able to hold themselves. Vagi qui, and they were wandering, vagi again with the I. Also, similes furentibus, with a similar to a madness basically. They were wandering around in a state similar to madness. Tantum urbem luctu ac mirare clom complaverent. Sometimes that N is also an M. So they filled up the city with such tantum, in such grief and such mirare means gloom basically, such grieving and gloominess. The nullus questibus omissus, that no type of complaining, this is the questus, was omitted, was left off. Quas those in tale casu segerated. This is just gero with I think that's sub, and the B gets turned into a G. In such a case, they wore their dolor, their pain, in such a horrible circumstance. Tale casu. Okay, well, the lobe actually has, which pain suggests in such sorrow. That's a nice way of putting it. Ergo, therefore, qui those extra regiem outside the palace ad stiderant, that means that they were standing there, from stidero, which has got the compound ad. Macedonians parita barbariqui, so the Macedonians and the barbarians parita equally, they concurrited. Current means run, con means run together, so therefore those who are outside, standing around outside the palace, Macedonians and barbarians, they ran together. Nec, neither, poderant, are they able, victi e victoribus in communi dolore discern. So neither were able to discern in their communal dolor, in their communal grief, the victi, the conquered, from the victoribus, from the victors. The Persae, the Persians, justissimum, or in the accusative, most just, and mitissimum, most mild, dominum, most just and most mild master. The Macedonians, an optimum ac fortissimum regam. The Macedonians, an optimum, which is the best, and the fortissimum superlative is the most bravest king. They were invocantes, so they were invoking, the Persians were calling on him as the most just and mild master. The Macedonians were invocantes, calling him the best and the bravest king. Curtiman quodan, so there was a certain contest, Mayer Oris, of mourning edibant was produced. So there was a certain contest produced between the Macedonians and the Persians in their mourning. Nec maestorum solum, so not only of the maestorums, of the sorrow, but even indignantium voces, but even of indignant voices were exordiabantur. Exordia usually means overheard. So not only was there this mourning, but even of indignant voices were overheard. Tam viridum, so vigorous, so flourishing, such as strength, and in floris aetis, and in the flower of his age, because he was a young man. And fortuna, the invidia deum, and the envy of the gods, had been ereptum. Again, we see he was just, he was mild, he was optimist, he was brave, and now he's snatched away from rebus humanus, this from human matters. Their great king was dead. Vigor eos, again his vigor and voltus, the look on his face, educentis in prolium militae. So as he was educating, as he was leading out his militates, his soldiers into battle, so they must be remembering his vigour and his look, leading soldiers out. In the obsidentis urbis, this is in the storming or besieging of of cities. Evadentus in muros, strange way of putting it. Usually you be scaling the walls. It looks like I don't know if evades the best word there, but this is the way he used to take these cities and besiege them and go over the walls. Fortes viros in the accusative, brave man, pro contione, before an assembly, occurrabant donantis oculus. So before the eyes in this assembly, he would donant this. He would give gifts to the brave man, occurrabant. He'd meet them basically, or present them with gifts. Tum Macedones. Then the Macedonians, divinos honores negase ie paenitabat. So then the Macedonians were regretting that negase, that they had denied the divine honores in the accusative ei to him. Impiosque, this would be themselves, and ingratos fuisse se confidabantur. And impious and ungrateful they had been, confidabantur, it means they had confessed, say themselves, to have been, fuisse, impious and ungrateful, quod ores eus, because his ears debita appellation fraudescent. So they had defrauded his ears of debita, what he was owed, this appellation, this name of divine honour, so calling him a god or something. And we're nearly done. Et cum die nunc, and cum now, die for a long time, nunc now, in veneration, nunc. So we have now in veneration and now in desidero. This is a longing. Haesiscent, it's plural in its verb. So now they were sticking for a long time in veneration. Haesiscent means the stick or the stain, and then now. So you could say now and then, really, if you wanted to. Now in their mourning or their longing for the king, and then in ipsos versa miseratio est, and then in pity or misery versa they were turned in ipsos towards themselves.